Yeah, very glad to be here. My name is Tony Fong. I'm here to talk about Lint. Just to add a little bit of advertisement here. In the last couple of months, have not been pushing out too much code lately, but so I seem to be missing the boat on this new tuple type thing. But there's this new master just came out this morning, and I encourage you to try it out, and I hope it will work better for your 0.4 code for this. So before I start, what is Lint? Well, actually, let me step back a little bit. Introduce myself. I am an amateur Julian user. I'm not affiliated with any academic institutions. Past 2 years, I was actually in doing some farming in a beautiful country in Southeast Asia. And in between my farming activities, I learned about Julia, and it was one of the greatest things. And so in the year 2016 Julia conference, if you need a Julia application in farming, I'm the guy you need. Personally, I'm interested in using Julia for certain kind of academic problems that I'm interested in, mostly in two-dimensional electronic systems and low-dimensional electronic structures in condensed matter physics. And I have also some interest in finance and other kind of computing problems as well. So one of the things that trying to scratch my itch is that while I really excited about Julia, one of the things I'm not certain about myself is whether I'm writing the right code. Before I want to make it fast, I want to make it right. So one of the things that I want to do to check my code is to have something like this, so that I can tell myself I'm stupid before someone can do the job for me. So Lint is a static code analyzer. From time to time, you write a spaghetti code like this. This is my code. Lots of symbols, structures, and there is a problem here. I can give you 2 minutes to see if you see any syntax error or things that will create runtime error. Can anyone find it easily? I cannot even see it from this screen. Obviously, it is fairly complicated using all these quote notes and expressions and that sort of thing, but the answer is here. There's an extra colon there. If you look at it, dictionary with the type variable colon symbol and function. The funny thing is that the runtime error is so obscure, at least back in 0.3. It took me 2 weeks to find out that problem. And I swear to myself I would never let that happen to me again. So it's kind of the genesis of Lint from that point. So as I mentioned, it's the scratch and itch. I think it has a lot of selfish reason. Looking at how the number of packages in Julia, it's been growing quite steadily. Is it exponential? I'm not so sure it's exponential. Is it a good thing to be exponential? I'm not entirely sure of that myself. But certainly, it's a good thing it's growing. And now that if I have a Lint package, I can check my bad habits. I can also use it to check, the packages that I use, that I rely on, to check some of the maybe they may have bad habits there as well. So I want to gain insights in those packages, and sometimes the lint can be helpful in helping me to look at what are the things that the author may be more careful about, or they write things in a way, the style that is different from yours or different from the lint creator. And I also find that it's very helpful because as when everyone start Julia at some point, and they usually have a baggage of prior computer language expertise. So they bring along a lot of assumptions and habits. Some of the good habits in our language are actually bad habits in Julia. And that can create quite a bit of barrier for newcomers, such as myself in the middle of last year. And having a package like this really lower that barrier. It's like, you shouldn't do X, Y, Z because the language design has already solved that problem for you. I think this is various reasons it's motivated me to write Lint, to share it. So let's just look at a little bit of a demo. I'm not so sure how it works. Usually demo have a habit of going very, very much awry in my experience. So you start up a Julia. A very simple thing is just using Lint. This session already has it. And then you can just say Lint file, the package, the main package file name you want to use. Right now I'm in this, this is a data frames matter directory. And I quite adore this package, by the way, and it's really neat. And this is, to run that, you see a bunch of Lint messages ordered by decreasing order of severity, and then within that order of severity, there's just order sorted by the line numbers and by file and so on. So you can see something that Lint is not perfect. There will be false positive, but this is something that it's to be expected. Lint is not does not run your code, so it may not necessarily know all the types that you define. They can only know about it syntactically, but not like in a very deep way. So there are certainly false positives as a result of that. But then going down a little bit, if you look at this, the first one is like, okay, there's a warning. First, it's a local variable that might cause confusion with a synonymous export from base. That's kind of helpful, actually. I have seen, in my code, I said a variable named var. Turns out it's also a built-in function. When I later on use var, it stopped working altogether. So there's certainly a lot of value in catching issues like this, arguments declared and not used. That's not necessarily a logical error, but could be. So you see the whole bunch of warnings, information. By the way, they also had some, more informational that is somewhat version aware that if you use a symbol with a lowercase, it will remind you in 0.4 onward, you should use the uppercase and so on. So that's working. So it catches a pretty wide range of stuff. So I can show you. If you go to the Lint packages, there's a pretty long list of errors and anti-patterns, so to speak, that it can catch. I'm particularly fond of this one. I think it caught certainly quite a few people by surprise, including myself. So when you do a range of 1 to in the end, when you insert a spurious space in between 1 and the colon, it means completely different things. And and Lint catches it. So that's Lint. Let me go back to the same. So do you guys want to do some more, or do you want to just talk a little bit about the more at a high level, how does Lint fit into the ecosystem? Does it matter? Okay. So to play a little bit, I have a little bit more demo. Okay, all right. Okay, so so we can try something else. So let's, I'm not so sure I have too many packages in my installation. So we can try something else, like which one is it? We can try Mocha. That would be a challenging one to.
Public shaming.
Exactly. Exactly. Chances is that it will be shame on my part, because Lint may just blow up with some like brand new pattern that the Lint does not anticipate. Let's try that. Lint file. Mocha. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. It's a big package.
So this is going through in every included file. It's also
It goes through every included files.
Does the output go to a file too, or is it all just on?
You can do either printing, or you can put it in the array. There's a optional argument to steer that. Wow. How big is Mocha? Good question. No, it does not. It's not an embarrassingly parallelizable process. Obviously, your type declare, once you declare in one file, it's shared by all the other files. You cannot easily parallelize that. It's a good question, actually. If someone is willing to take a step at it, you know how to generate a pull request. Wow. It doesn't wrap box, but it doesn't do anything.
The package actually pass the Julia code fully? Does it try to pass the code fully like Julia parser does, or is it kind of more?
Oh, it uses Julia's own parser essentially. It's equivalent of navel gazing, basically. So you use Julia to when you parse a file, it generates the parse tree, and just walk the parse tree. So it's exhaustive. Of course, it will not be able to, the default parse tree strip all the comments out. So if you have any interesting comments, the parse tree doesn't contain that. You cannot, include that. Usually it causes a little bit of problem when, for example, you have some comment right before the definition of a functions, and let's say your argument list has some problem, lint error. what happens is that the lint will generate an error that is at the beginning of the comment block instead of the line that started the function declaration. It's sort of the idiosyncrasies of the current parser. So I'm not writing my own Julia parser. I'm relying on the default one, and that's how it works. I admit surrounder. I think we have to. Wow, this is.
Try time series.
Actually, lint on lint itself, it's part of, oh, there we go. Linting lint itself is part of the current regression test of lint. So, So, actually, not that bad. Yeah, not that bad. Use a C base, actually. Export an undefined symbol, whole list of symbols that is undefined. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, okay. That can be bad. I know. I'm just quickly eyeballing it. Oh, okay, so you know what you're relying on when you use Mocha. So anyway, so back to the earlier topic. If you look at the lint test, run test, there is a part that is the lint self. So you look at the lint self. What that means is that it does a lint package of itself. So, and it makes sure that the only lint messages are currently only info but not higher in terms of severity. So, yeah.
Does it matter what directory you open Julia in? Because I can't get a path to get this to work.
Did you try lint package? If you do lint package, it will just change directory for you. That might help.
Instead of lint files?
Yeah, lint file you have to be in the current directory. So.
Just lint package?
Yeah, lint pkg, and then just the package name itself. So, I'm sure many of you will find false positive, and you know where to file issues. One thing that has been often discussed in the Julia user mailing list is that there are a number of code quality and also like code code analyzer. Lint is one of them, and the other one is type check. They serve, in my mind, complementary functions. Lint does not really do any like deep type inference. It's trying to just look at the parse tree and trying to get as much out of it based on the pattern or anti-patterns that they encounters. It geared towards catching a lot of rookie mistakes. I try to make it I spend more time trying to make it easier for a newcomer to this language so that they will have an easier time to identify issues that they can fix themselves easily. Performance-related recommendation are there for some of the easy ones, but it's not really the focus. I'm sure that a lot of these things can be created in terms of the lint messages. But it's not the focus. As I mentioned earlier, I want Lint to help us write correct code first before making it fast. Type check serves a little bit of a different purpose. It's a very deep, using the entire type inference infrastructure to tells you if there's any type instabilities in your function that you define, and that create a lot of informations about whether or not it's correct or whether or not it's fast. So it's geared towards performance improvement, assuming you already can prove yourself the code works correctly. So in my mind, they serve a very different functions in the process of writing good code. So and tricks. So some tricks is a new user for Lint package. When you see a error message, you don't quite understand what it means. I strongly recommend just grabbing part of that complaints on Lint messages in the test file. Usually, I think as far as I know, all the Lint messages have the test case implemented in the test directory. So you can find out the very, very small test case that generate that pattern that created that Lint problems. So you can try to see what part of your code has that similar issues. And also, Lint has its own Lint pragma macro. The Lint pragma macro actually does not do anything. In fact, if you look at the Lint pragma macro itself, let me show you. Right here. Lint pragma S, nothing. So it's at runtime it's just taken out. What it serves is that during Lint time, is instruct Lint that something needs to be Lint should be aware. For example, let's say you have a function that ignore one argument, it will generate a Lint function, a Lint error or Lint info. Suggesting that, you forgot to use that argument in your code, in your functions, which is by definition not really an issue, but it's just a reminder. If you want to turn it off, you can use Lint pragma macro, ignore unused argument X, for example. Then Lint will just completely silence out that particular messages. So there are a lot of Lint pragma out there that serve some more or less useful purpose. For example, ignore unused variable name. I just don't want to use that variable in that particular implementation. Ignore unstable type variable. You set variable x into a string, and then later on set variable x again into a float. It will generate an error, a warning at least, and you can use that to silence it. And there are a whole bunch of other Lint pragma that can help you with that. And also particularly helpful is that you can use Lint to basically at Lint time inform you what Lint thinks about the type of a variable at Lint time before actually something is run. So you can say info type expression. You can info type variable x, some x, and if Lint can figure out what x is at Lint time before actually running it, it will tell you. And so that's quite useful. And also Lint pragma info version, whatever version number it is, it will tell you whether or not the version number, if it's running in that version, whether or not it will reach that piece of code that contains that pragma. So for certain compatibility analysis, this can be helpful. So also, last but not least, there are a number of code editor integrations. I don't own them. I don't use it. I'm a Luddite. I just use VI. But there's Emacs support, fly check, and there's also Sublime support as well, as far as I know. And the same contributor also wrote a Lint server. As we know, Lint is not a small package in itself. So loading a Lint server and listen to Lint command from the editor can really speed up the iterative process, go back and forth from the editor. So challenges. Development of Lint essentially pretty much stalled 2 months ago, I have to confess. And even before that, it's always in a catch-up mode. As an idle farmer, I had a lot more free time actually just reading through every single Julia user post there is, so it's easy for me to just catch up on all the changes in in Julia and just write little pattern matching thing to catch any sort of anti-patterns. But now that I'm here, it's much more difficult. So that's challenge number one. Challenge number two is multiple dispatch. Fantastic feature of Julia. I think it's rather unique, but it in itself poses unique challenges for Lint. If Lint encounter a call function with a signature, unless it's very, very clever, can actually infer every single type arguments and find out the type signature. It's really hard to figure out what to do with that information. The problem is more severe when you're dealing with a lot of the arrays and matrices functions. A lot of matrix arrays functions are heavily overloaded. There are many implementations of the same function name, and Lint doesn't handle it very well in terms of catching a lot of mistakes. It just silently breeze through a lot and thinking, oh, there's no problem, but in fact there are. So, and also one thing is, as I mentioned earlier in the first in the initial example of the very busy code page, and there's one extra colon in the type argument. How do I check the type argument in the curly brackets? It feels really unnatural to check it in Lint as well. But I don't know how to do it better. So that's also a little bit of an issue that is going to be a challenge for Lint as well. Or maybe it's maybe not a Lint's job to answer those kind of questions. I don't know. And also, should Lint be in base? Maybe, maybe not. It's rather heavy package. It can be creating a little bit of bloat in the base if it's included. But included in base will also enable some additional interesting functionalities, such as you can then have modules afterwards, creations that know how to supply additional Lint extensions that helps any other users using that new package in its own way. For example, maybe I'm not explaining it very well. A lot of packages introduce new macros. And macros really just a way of helping the developer create a new DSL, for example. But that DSL has its own patterns and anti-patterns that people should be aware of. And ideally, you want to extend lint to tell the users of that package whether or not you are using those macros correctly. So having that in lints in base can actually enable that functionality more naturally. So also there are other ideas that I have, but would love to see in Lint as in some point in the future. One of the issues, I think, one of the most discussed issues in Julia users recently is it's a very simple one. In fact, it has to do with, I think Mike Turok actually was initiating that discussion. Basically, you have package A, package B, they're unrelated, they're not depending on each other, but they define a function with the same name. And that can cause a problem in terms of subsequent packages that use both of them. So, and how do you coordinate that in that sort of cooperative use of packages, unrelated packages? It's a challenge that, thank you. So that maybe better solve having lints involved as well. So there are other more mundane things that can be done in lints, make it faster, for example, and improve the transversal packages with submodules. That is not doing a very perfect job. In fact, it's doing a kind of bad job. If you have a lot of submodules, it does not lint easily. So last but not least, it needs collaborators. It doesn't take a lot of time. I was not doing any development in 2 months, but one morning I pretty much catch up with all the latest development in Julia language. It's not that hard. It's just understanding the pattern, go over it and make sure that the pattern matching works and so on. So it is fairly straightforward to add stuff to it and modify. I hope, maybe because I'm biased, it's my code. Help the rest of us and help the newcomers to enjoy Julia so they can contribute more to the ecosystem. So that's it. Thank you.